Harald Prinsloo from Clarksdorp were making their rally debut in the MSA Off-Road Championship Class D winning Nissan Hardbody. The final entrants to set up in the 7-strong Videosport Off Road Challenge field would be Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smallberger in the N1 4x4 Land Cruiser. Weichelt is a relative newcomer to off-road competition and would also be making his rally debut. On the road, Sarel van der Merwe and Fitz Swanepoel were turning on the pace up front. Sarel exchanging the growling kick in the back V8 horsepower and tar circuits of West Bank Modified Racing for reunion with the slick conditions of rally. Enzo Keen in the sister Colt Rodeo was reveling in the conditions he likes most as he and co-driver Johan Seeling set after the flying van der Merwe. The ultra-quick Jackie Joubert and Danny Smith with the bug amongst the buckies, so to speak, and were quickly on a pace that would have many of the PMC rally entrants rattled, while at the same time entertaining some of the spectators. Cliff Barker and Vic Camper were pushing the Land Rover as hard as they always do, while Gussie Kutsia and Oki Furry gave chase in the growling Jeep Cherokee. The Videosport Off Road Challenge would see the crews racing against the clock in the same format that rallying uses, and with this fact all too clear in their minds, Hein Grobler and Harald Prinsloo held nothing back in the Nissan Hardbody. They may have been last on the road, but the Toyota Land Cruiser of Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smallberger would go on to take 6th place on Stage 2. With special Stage 2 completed and the drivers getting a feel for the conditions, the crews set about determining what changes they would need to make for optimal performance and handling, while also determining the extent of any damage caused to the vehicles as they were pushed to their limits of endurance.
Yeah, we've got a vibration problem because we've changed our gearbox, so we're busy just want to try and find out what's the problem with the vibration, and then we've got I think our timing's out a bit. We haven't got the power. Top end, we're running out of torque, so just having a look what we can do.
We changed to use a full proper rally tyre this time instead of the traditional off-road tyre, which is much higher. So it gives us a benefit on the gear ratio, and it's got a lot more traction. You know, you can feel the car braking into the corners where normally you just slide your way through. So it's impressive. Those rally tyres are purpose-built, and it's nice to have them on a track like this.
After finding himself down in 7th place after Stage 2, van der Merwe was determined to better on that position by coming to grips with his Colt Rodeo. Just for a moment we take you inside the office of Sarel van der Merwe and Fitz Swanepoel. Enzo Keen was clearly enthralled with the idea of having the rally tyres on his Colt Rodeo and set about brewing up his very own Desert Storm. Keen had brought the Colt home in 2nd place on Stage 2, but the crew that he had to play second fiddle to at this stage of the rally was the Jojo Tanks VW Beetle of Jackie Joubert and Danny Smith. Joubert and Smith had eked out a mere 6-second lead over Keen and Seeling, and even though they were not competing for the same category honours, it was interesting that Joubert and Smith were only 7 seconds of the quickest rally car time, something that got the spectators talking. Parker and Camper in the Land Rover had slotted into 3rd place after special Stage 2 and continued to work hard at putting the pressure on those in front of them. Parker and Camper would go on to claim the 2nd fastest time on Stage 3. Stage 3 would prove to be one of the longest stages on day 1, but Kutsia had not raced much this year, would not be deterred by this, and raced the Jeep Cherokee around the stage in his unmistakable Kutsia style. As the spectators waited for the next vehicle to appear, Weichelt and Smallberger obliged as they came speeding into view. The vibration on their Toyota Land Cruiser that they reported on Stage 2 was showing no sign of slowing the duo down at this point of the race. Grobler and Prinsloo in the Nissan Hardbody could only manage a 6th place on Stage 3, but was still well placed to exert pressure on the top order going into the remaining special stages. Even if you go racing to escape the office, you just cannot seem to get away from the paperwork. Van der Merwe and Swanepoel do what is required before heading off for a short rest and Stage 4. They are soon followed in by Keen and Seeling, who join their teammates in the Colt pit area, where it's the turn of the crews to go to work while drivers and co-drivers get to unwind, even if it's only for a moment.
Obviously, Yaki is putting up a serious pace. I think we're probably running second at the moment. And yeah, I think overall in the field we're also pretty high up.
It's fast and it's smooth, nothing tricky, and it's just a car, but yeah, I like the fast stuff.
We're leading Sorrel by, I think, 25 seconds, and I think if we had to score now, we'd be lying 6 overall, so it's not bad for an off-road vehicle in a rally.
And the weather?
We just keep on praying. We need the rain, the monsoon storms. That'll put us right to the front.
And as if on cue, the weather looked as though it was going to answer Enzo's prayers as the skies took on a menacing look and presence about them. But Sorrel had anything but the skies in his view as he manhandled the Colt Rodeo around the stage, and my guess is that Fitz Swanepoel was obviously praying for something different than Enzo Keane was. With Keane feeling well into stage 4, dry conditions were all that Keane was getting as the rain held off a little longer and the Colt Rodeo crew pressed on.
Hooligan.
Hubert and Smith in the Jojo Tanks VW Beetle were starting to stretch a lead that was getting uncomfortable for the chasing pack as they continued to reel in the special stage wins. Stage 4 was no exception, and even Barker and Gamper in the Quadrocheur Land Rover were being hard-pressed to keep the Beetle in sight. Kutsia and Okifari were a menacing sight as the ominous-looking Jeep Cherokee came growling around the corner. The competition was still intensely close, and at this stage had almost nothing in it between the competitors, with only 18 seconds separating first and 7th place. Weiheld and Smallberger in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser were still turning in a good pace, but you couldn't help but think that the earlier vibration that they detected was preventing them from going as quick as what they were capable of. Back in the pit area after stage 4, and the weather had become a factor that had everyone guessing what it was going to do. Some opted for a cutting-edge approach, and the Jeep Cherokee crew set about modifying their tires in a bid to improve traction and handling of the big V8-powered beast. The sudden wind gave crews a new challenge to deal with, but on the stage, drivers were brewing up a storm of their own. With the Jojo Tanks team of Hubert and Smith throwing down the gauntlet, it was catch-up time for the Colt Rodeo teams of Van der Merwe and Kin. With their lights ablaze, the leading team of Hubert and Smith gave the crowd an exciting display of the varied handling capabilities of the VW Beetle while continuing to stretch their lead. Barker and Camper in the Land Rover were definitely not interested in a stroll in the park and kept the pressure on Hubert and Smith. But as the rain started to fall, matters for Kutsia and Fari in the Jeep Cherokee had turned a little for the worse as he brought a visibly battle-scarred vehicle into the pit area. We put Kutsia on the spot by asking him to explain to the vehicle's owner, Arthur Abraham, what happened.
I hit a splash of water and in the face, and I couldn't see a thing, and I believe it's a sharp bend, and I hit it, and the thick sand, it just kicked. And I thought I ran back on my wheels, stuff like that.
And so the running repairs begin while the rain continues to belt down, making the task all that more difficult. For Sorrel, it was a good time to fill the gap as he and others took shelter from the elements before they set out to take on the night stages on day 1. Not even the pouring rain could deter these off-road warriors as Van der Merwe and Swanepoel take to the course in the number 15 Colt Rodeo. The rain is just what Keane asked for, and now it was up to him to prove if his predictions that the monsoon wet was going to help him and Sealing move to the front of the pack. As Hubert and Smith raced away from the start in the Jojo Tanks VW Beetle, they must have been comfortable with their efforts on day 1 that saw them winning all but one stage, which they dropped to Keane in the wet. Most of the pressure on day 1 for Hubert came from the Quadrocheur Land Rover of Barker and Camper, but the challenge eased a little as the Landy crew, running without a windscreen, found their pace slackening in the rain. The throaty growl at the start line meant that the Kutsia Fari Jeep Cherokee had a clean bill of health and was right back in the thick of things on the final night stage. The distant hard-body pairing of Probler and Prinsloo were the final crew to tackle the rain-soaked night stage, with Weiheld and Smallberger in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser having withdrawn in stage 6 due to mechanical problems. The results for day one special stages would see Hubert, Keen and Panamava holding down the top 3 places going into day 2, with Barker, Pobler and Kutsia continuing to chase. Day 2 dawned on a serene setting that would unveil the literal quiet after the storm.